anyways, I think as folks here know, CCL is a nonpartisan group. We welcome different political viewpoints. Everybody is welcome, regardless of affiliation, age, what have you, whatever group you belong to or don't belong to, you're welcome here. So encourage one and all to participate in our democracy and work for building a more livable world. We'll go to the next one, Jamin. Yeah. Okay. So to kick this off, we have an icebreaker here, or connection before content, if you will. So with this, I guess, not so large group, you can either feel free to shout it out or put it in the chat if you want, though. What is your favorite dish and why?
I would say jambalaya. It's rich and tasty and complex, both in taste and in origin. It's a fusion food.
All right, Keith.
Very, very nice.
So I've got one from down under, and I don't know how common it is here, but it's called pavlova. Has anybody had pavlova? Mm-hmm. You have? Okay. Anybody not have pavlova? Oh, Bill and Keith haven't. Okay, well, we'll try to make that happen. Pavlova, just for those who haven't gotten familiar with it, is made out of mostly stiffly beaten egg whites and sugar, and it's baked, and it's round, and it has a crisp crust with a lightly foamy interior, and it's topped. And I thought it was appropriate because of our topic tonight with Karina, because the top is loaded with a great diversity. There's a keyword of fruits of different colors and different styles and different backgrounds, and the top is level, so all those fruits are on an equal footing, which I think is also known as equity. And because it has such a great collection of fruits, it also satisfies the diversity criteria, and it's really good to eat. So that's my favorite dish.
Well, I see, Jamin, you nailed the inclusion with free food. So. Anybody else want to? I see that you're helping the medical profession here, Karina, with yours.
Yes, mine is a stuffed potato patties, and it's the greatest thing on earth, according to my own wonderful opinion of it. It's my favorite Ecuadorian dish, and yeah, it could give you a heart attack if you think about all the grease that it comes with. But it's so good.
Hey, how bad can it be if they're all natural ingredients, right? So.
I'd like to say it depends on, the situation. If I'm on a big bike ride, I could eat dirt and it would taste good. But since Karina shared her dish that sounds like a heart attack maker, it makes me think of the funeral potatoes, which are very popular in Utah with the LDS faith. They have these huge dishes, and they're just cheese and butter and a little bit of potato in there. And I just had to share that because they're pretty tasty if you're feeling like you want something that'll stick with you for a while.
And sorry, Bill, the common name is funeral potatoes?
I'm sure that's probably not, but I think if you call them that, they'd probably say, "Oh yeah, those are those potatoes." Yeah, I don't know what. To be honest, I don't know what. I think they look sort of like scallop potatoes, with cheese, but they're just very rich, and they probably have cream in them too, and they're just very much comfort food.
Thank you, Karina. So there's a
Sounds
link
good.
to them, Bill, for you.
Oh, wow. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Thank you.
So
Awesome.
that's the end of the meeting here. We're just going to go eat now after that.
Yeah, there you go. That's all the diversity and inclusion we need today.
Yeah. Oh, well, thanks everybody for playing along. Yeah, okay. So who are we and who's going to talk about that? I think that's up to you, Ruth, to tell us who we are and what we're doing here. Or maybe that's a different slide, but
Yeah.
at least you can tell
Thank
us
you,
who we are.
Paul. Yes, there's another slide, but it has our values on it. And so the one that I would like to highlight is integrity, because it seems to be in short supply in some places. So our approach is thoughtful and thorough, is what our website tells us. We are prepared. We consult experts, use data, and solicit feedback before forming opinions or making decisions. So that's what really strikes me about our particular group, is you guys are really data driven. I mean, not you guys, we guys. And there's more to it. We follow up when we are asked. We keep on going even when it's hard. People know they can count on us to be consistent and to do what we say we will do. So I just wanted to highlight that aspect of our core values. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. And I agree with you about given these days and times, and especially also the perseverance, as you're stating too, right? So we need to do that. So anyways, again, appreciate everybody. Speaking of perseverance, making it for tonight's meeting. Next slide, I think, Keith, that's yours.
Yeah. So CCL's mission is to create the political will for a livable world by empowering individuals to experience breakthroughs in exercising their personal and political power.
Okay, thank you. And Ron,
Yes.
why don't you talk to us about what we're supporting?
Oh, this is one for me. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the team here pretty much, excuse me, knows what our policy agenda is. CCL was founded on the presumption that the most effective way to reduce global emissions was to get a carbon fee and dividend act passed. It's been introduced a bunch of times, I think beginning in 2018. There's no bill in the House or the Senate right now. So we're looking, CCL is looking for other opportunistic ways to reduce emissions. And they include healthy forests, urban and rural, electrifications of buildings. The more we can electrify and get away from coal boilers and oil boilers to heat or so forth, and permitting reform, generation, transmission of electricity, and good community involvement with permitting reform are three things that we can do while we're waiting perhaps until the next Congress to get a carbon fee and dividend bill. Thank you. Next slide.
This one's yours, Ron. You'd like
Oh,
to
yeah, it is too.
introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Karina?
Oh my gosh. So Karina is hugely welcome here, leads the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Initiatives, CCL staff and volunteers. She is based in Honolulu, currently in Florida for a week or so. And what I wanted to say was, I had my notes here and I can't find them right now, but oh yeah, here it is. Karina holds a master's in journalism from the University of North Texas, bachelor's in international studies from American University. She joined CCL in 2017, which is wonderful. Karina, same year that I joined CCL. Something happened in 2016, didn't it? Yeah, we know what that was. And she's spent a decade before joining CCL as a multimedia journalist. I had to look that one up. But stories ranging from news to business to immigration topics. And super glad to have you with us, Karina. Thanks for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me today. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about building community. And if I go a bit fast, it's because I really want to get to the answer and question period, because I think that is where I can bring more perspective. So, saludos and aloha. I get to do it twice. My pronouns are she, her, ella. And normally when I start my presentation, I just share a bit about me. Born and raised in Ecuador. Lived in the United States since I was the age of 9. Definitely a fan of sunrise photography. As much as I love my dog, Dino there, he's an adopted dog, belongs to my cousin. But I'm also a cat grandma as of February. I collect postcards. That beautiful human right next to me is my daughter, who just finished graduating from UA last week. And that floor on the bottom right is my memory from covering Pope Francis when he came to the US. 2016, I want to say. And yeah, I was on the floor trying to take notes, trying to get feedback from people. And it's one of the best experience I've had, because I was following a group of a Catholic community from Dallas that traveled to Philadelphia by bus. So it was quite an experience. Every time I do a presentation, I like to do a land acknowledgement. I was very humbled when I came across the recommendation by UH. So when you see my slides, you'll see how long it is. But for the purpose of time, I am connecting to you from South Florida, the traditional lands of the Taino, Tequesta, Geauga people. But I am presently an immigrant on the Honolulu, and that's where I'm calling my home. And everything is connected. And it's incredible how everything has been just three circles. But I like to acknowledge that I respect the land and the traditions, and I look forward to working to the community there as I get to know them. So today, I'm going to talk about inclusion and belonging at CCL, why community matters, and maybe why some people are not engaging at this time, and what to do. This is a picture of the BIPOC Affinity Teams gathering that I've been hosting for at least 4 years during the summer conference. It is because of a large group of affinity teams that I'll tell you a bit more as we do the presentation, that I am doing this work today. So we center our diversity and inclusion work in our values. I happen to believe that I arrived at the right time at CCL. Prior to me joining in 2017, there was not a diversity value. So I'm very proud to be among the group of people that worked on the value, suggested that value, and worked with other volunteers and member of staff to bring it to life. So I'm happy to see it as part of our values now. So my work. So the core work of anything DEI is supposed to be diversity, equity, and inclusion to start with, right? I've been saying for the last couple of years that our organization focuses only on diversity and inclusion, which just means we're looking at different backgrounds, different communities, and we want to make sure that when they come to CCL that they feel included, right? I just started talking about equity this year, because I'm trying to engage in the conversation not only with my coworkers, the leadership team, our CEO, our board members, what does equity mean for an organization like CCL? And how can we define that, right? There are different organizations that tackle equity in a different way, and there are many different levels of equity. That's a conversation for another day. But I want to start for us to have that conversation, hopefully this year, as we move forward. But all the work is really centered on building community, communication, collaboration, building relationships. And every time I see my work, I see myself as an orchestra conductor. I'm just the person that sort of ties in everybody's points of view, and somehow I provide advice, I provide recommendations, but in essence, the entire organization needs to be on board with DEI. Especially now that there seems to be a big pushback against the practice. Some of it because of lack of understanding of what it actually is. Unfortunately, it has become very political when it shouldn't be. But in essence, the work in itself, it just means, are people included? And are we doing our best job to include everybody, especially because we are an organization with a mission to talk about climate solutions. And when we talk about those climate solutions, are we having the conversations with the right communities, with the solutions that we want to put forward? So the other part of my work, in addition to working organizationally, so all CCL, is also hosting inclusion fellowships, which we've been hosting for 4 years now. And I am also in charge of the inclusion workshops. So those workshops that you see at the Diversity and Inclusion Action Team, I am the person that helps put those together with a wonderful group of volunteers that I will share with you in a minute. So additionally, I'm supporting all the affinity teams. So this particular community started with the Latinos Action Team in 2017. But DEI work started with higher education in 2016 because Clara Fang was running the higher education action team. So there was work being done before I arrived to CCL. So when I started the Latinos Action Team, there were other communities that were coming to CCL. And at that time, they didn't have anyone at the staff level. And they were like, hey, well, Karina has managed to build the Spanish language / Latinos Action Team. Maybe Karina can provide some assistance. And along the way, I kept on telling CCL staff, I'm like, I'm just your volunteer. And then I became your contractor. And then they hired me. And along the way, I kept on moving. So I tell people it is because of volunteers that I have my present job. And I am forever grateful. So as of last month, the community continued to expand. We are doing some organizational focus with Drew and Ricky and Ellie, and I asked them to allow me to work with the faith community. There's about 14 of them. Also with the Climate Reality Leadership course, which are just members that are members of both organizations, CCL, and Climate Reality, and Peace Corps decided to join the affinity community because they filled out the survey that we sent out to all the affinity team leaders, and they're like, hey, we want to be with the affinity groups. So because of everybody, I will now be working with 26 communities. It's going to be quite work, but I am grateful that some of these are run by some really good volunteers. And my hope is just to continue to support them. Something that comes up often in my work is talking about justice. And Ron, when you approached me to do this presentation, I was also getting ready to do a presentation for a conference that was centering feminist climate justice. And this is some of the information that I shared with them. I acknowledge that CCL is not a climate justice organization. We are not built for that kind of work. But we are attracting different communities, and I like to believe that I live in a reality, and I know the work that we're doing is going to take some time, but we have volunteers and members of staff that believe in justice and that believe in equity. And usually the conversation is, can we do that as a nonpartisan organization? And Drew Irely and I have had many conversations about what that work could entail. him being the conservative that he is, and I being the liberal that I am, and how do we not only model that as far as like behavior, how do we treat each other with different points of view, but actually what is also realistic of what we can accomplish, right? Because we are supporting bills that in one way or another sometimes could harm some communities, and sometimes they could help some communities. So it's good to have those discussions. My goal to this entire work has been to make sure that our lobby meetings are inclusive as they can be. And if they can have people that believe in equity and justice, maybe there could be some conversation that can be entertained with that member of Congress or with that legislative aide or director, right? And what I would love to see, and this is again, I usually say I because the conversation hasn't been had with an entire CCL leadership to be like, where exactly are we in this particular realm of justice and nonpartisanship? But I would love to see equity and justice and inclusion and diversity in our legislation. Right now, we are defending our clean energy credit. That is one way to look at maybe including some equity, but what can it look like when we look at other bills? Right? And can we do that with an understanding that we have members in our communities that are extremely diverse, not only in political thought, but in background and sometimes language and way of living? And can we do that together peacefully? I often remind people that as much as we focus on climate, because one of the things I hear is like, we're an organization concentrated on climate. And I usually say, yes, that's true. I am here because of climate, but I also need to remind you that this work is also intersectional, right? It's not just climate. Ethnicity impacts our climate work. Culture does, race does, sexual orientation, age, all of those things makes it a very, very interesting conversation. When I was trying to find the different things that connect, right? We have religion as one of the intersectionalities. We have creation care. You would have never thought that there would have been an entire conversation about creation care, right? But it is possible, and people possibly weren't thinking about it even before Pope Francis was talking about Laudato Si. But I was trying to be like, is there anyone having a conversation about political ideology? And I would like to think that not a lot of them do. I want to say that maybe in the environmental space, we're the only organization looking at that because of the lens of nonpartisanship. There's a lot of organizations that would say, yeah, we're nonpartisan. But I would also like to think that we're the ones that are trying to live up to that value, to that ideology, to that idea. So I'm very happy to be in the group to have that discussion to see where that could lead us. I don't do this work alone, although I am the only staff member focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, the person that has the title. But with this work, that doesn't mean that because I'm the person that has the title, that I'm the only person responsible, right? One of the things that I've been trying to explain to my coworkers is this work invites people to collaborate often and to have many discussions. So it's not just me. There was no way that you're going to see a diversity strategy that is just going to come up with my idea without the support of my coworkers or the support of my CEO. It doesn't happen that way. But while I'm the only person there are things that I've been wanting to do at the volunteer level. So I said, I need some help. So through conversations, when the regional directors were here, I would normally ask them, be like, hey, do you have someone that's interested in DEI? Could you refer them to me? And in the last couple of years, I've been building what I call the National Inclusion Team. So these members are the two fellows that I normally hire every year. So it's a paid position. It doesn't pay a lot, but it's a yearly position. And Palika and Emily are my fellows for this year. And then I have volunteers that have been around since 2020. And they're in different parts of the country with different points of view. And every year when I look at the team, I try to include people that have something that I may not know about. For example, Joy is in Dallas. She was one of the Dallas chapter's co-leaders, and she is very much centered on environmental justice. When Lily asked to be an intern, she was focused on voting. And I'm like, oh, it will be great to have conversations about voting. Kendall came in and she's like, Karina, I know you have something with disability. I want to be able to support that. So she supports the Persons with Disability Action Team for the semester. So she's about to be done. There is Zach and Daniel who have been volunteering with me for about Daniel 1 year, Zach for 2 years because he was a former fellow. And then Rachel and Saravanan, as well as Joy and Christian, are my community ambassadors. So when we had regions, they would be the person in charge of different regions. And that's why you see where they're located, because I'm like, oh, I need people with those perspectives and those points of view. So Christian, for example, she was part of the Pacific Northwest Conference, because I'm like, oh, I need help. You're going to be there. We could do a presentation about DEI. So everybody brings something new to the table every year. And with them, I do the Inclusion Conference, which we also work with the people of the global majority for that conference, and also the inclusion workshops, and anything else that we were doing. There was a lot of work that, because of our budget cuts, are currently on hold. Spanish language info sessions was being done with members of these teams. The Race and Climate Culture Conversation was also being done with this team. That is a program that I cannot do because right now at the staff level, I don't have someone that is trained to help me do those discussions because they're longer discussions than it's a 2-hour program. But, every year it changes. And because of a lot of these people, I've been able to advance the work, and I'm very grateful. So let's talk about what it means to be in community. So I went and tried to look at some stories about things that are happening. So let me start by saying I was encouraged that there were many communities that were coming to us and wanted to, the link, yeah, thank you. The link to the stories are inside the slides. People that were coming to us because they were like, oh my God, I love the work that you're doing. I love that you're focusing on partisanship. And I would love to be able to contribute, right? But then there's also a lot of communities right now that may not cannot center climate because their lives are being impacted by different things that are happening. There's many. There's so many things happening. I was actually having a conversation with a volunteer that was telling me that she was about to turn off her social media because it was really impacting her mental health. And it's becoming that kind of thing. I've also known of some volunteers that has said, Karina, I love what CCL is doing. I cannot support CCL at this time because I have to go advocate for something else. And I know some volunteers that have done that in the last couple of months. I even know a member of staff that actually chosen to do that as well. And I'm sitting there like, okay, everybody will have their different things that they will advocate for. That doesn't mean that they don't care about climate or that they don't think that it's important. It's just that right now their priorities could possibly be with something that is impacting their daily present life. And they want to be able to focus on that and maybe possibly help some members of their community. So so keep that in mind as I ask you to go do some research later about communities that you might want to engage with in the next couple of months. So before we play this video, I follow a lot of practitioners that talk about DEI, that talk about just how to build community in general. And Ashani Mofo sort of explained it really well, particularly with her community, on like, you want to be in community with Black people. I would also say her particular recommendations also work with any kind of community. So that is why I chose this video.
I'm going to how to be in community with Black people. I'm going to give you 3 simple steps that you can take to effectively and successfully be in community with Black people, because to continue saying things like, we need to come together, we need unity, we all have to work together to fight these systems that are coming against us and all of this stuff, but you don't even know how to be in community. You're not even a safe person for Black people. Why would we want to be in community with you? Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 simple steps that you can follow to help you learn how to be in community with us, period. So watch this video all the way to the end. Here's your number 1 tip for how to be in community with Black people, okay? Number 1 is that you need to be investing in your own anti-racism education and cultural competency training or education, because you are not a safe person for us if you do not have self-awareness. You don't know that you have internalized anti-Blackness that you need to unlearn. You don't realize that you hold racial stereotypes and racial biases within your own mind, and you haven't unlearned those yet. You haven't deconstructed them. That makes you not safe for us. So in order to be in community with us, you have to be a safe person for us. And how can you be safe if you haven't invested in the education that shows you and opens your mind and teaches you the things that you've never been taught and that you never learned from your family or from the education system, okay? Because if you don't do that, you're going to start to cause harm. And then when you get called out, you're going to react, you're going to get defensive, and then you're going to continue to cause more harm and blame us for calling you out. Number 2, you need to know your role in the community. Think of community as a group project. Everyone that's in the group project has to contribute something. They have to come to the table with something to contribute. So know what your role is in the community that you are participating in or that you are a part of. Or is it a financial role? Are you someone that is investing money into the community? Are you raising money for people in the community? Are you showing up and using your privilege, your network, your connections, your social media platforms, your business, etc., for the purpose of helping the community to reach their goals, to expand and advocate for more people who are in vulnerable, marginalized communities? Know what your role is. Number 3, come into the community with this mentality. I'm going to give more than I take. I'm going to give more than I take. Come with the mentality that I'm here to serve the needs of this community, not I'm here to benefit from this community. I'm here to extract free labor from Black people. I'm here to see what connections I can make. I'm here to virtue signal and look like I'm a good person by being a part of this community. No, come to give more than you take. And at the same time, it's also not simply transactional, right? It is genuine. It is authentic. It's steeped in compassion and empathy and care for humanity and care for your fellow neighbors and friends and people around you who need support. So come into the community with that mentality. I'm here to give more than I take. And those are 3 simple ways that you can learn how to be in community with Black people. And I have one bonus tip for you today. Now, listen, I know that you might think you know what's best for people. You know what people need. You've read all the books. You've watched all the videos. You've been to the protests. You have done all the things. But sometimes you don't know what people truly need. So you have to listen to people in that community when they tell you this is what we need, and be flexible to do what's needed, not what's comfortable. I'm going to say that again. Be flexible to do what is needed, not what is comfortable for you. And remember, community is not an event. Community is not an event. It's a way of life. It's an experience. Okay? So don't think I went to that protest. I went to that event. I went to that thing that one time. Now I'm done. I'm good. No, it's not an event. It's a way of life. Now, if you want to continue to learn more and do what I talked about in tip number 1, which is investing in anti-racism education and cultural competency training, all you have to do is go to that link on my profile. You can join my Patreon community today, or you can sign up for my 7-day challenge, the 7 habits of culturally competent leaders. So get to work, get into community, get informed, and remember, give more than you take. Get out of this mentality that Black people are just here to serve you, here to give free labor, and you don't have to give anything in return. That's not how community works. When we all do our parts, beautiful things happen. And that's how we create positive systemic change. Anti-racism is not a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah. So as a reminder, right? What is as Shani said? It's to be investing in your own anti-racism education. We have a lot of resources that we put together in CCL community. I put the link to our inclusion library if you want to catch up on previous workshops. And build the self-awareness, right? Mine, because of the work that I engaged in, is continuous, right? When I tell people about this work, I'm like, I am asking for long-term commitment. This is not something that's going to get done in a day or in a weekend, right? Because a lot of these conversations and workshops and conferences even invite us to look inward a lot. So that's why she recommended, start with your own education. And I'm constantly telling people, do you know what is happening in your community? What is your contribution? What is the role that you want to play? Are you the person that's going to financially support? Are you the person that's just going to volunteer? Are you the person that you're going to help teach? What is it that that community is needing that you can offer? I am a believer in that all of us bring a gift to every single space where we are in. What is your gift that you can bring to that community? And I love her concept of coming to the community with the mentality of, I'm going to give more than I take. I am here to serve. And oftentimes I tell people, while CCL decides where they want to engage in, right? Especially because we're going through this period of change, we can spend our time serving, right? One of the first things I do, but this is just me, I'm not saying this is like the best recommendation. I'm just telling you what I do. Every time I move into a new community, one of the first things I do is community search. I look for community centers. I look for any place where I can be of service. So already arriving in Honolulu in February, I went and I did my search and I joined 2 places. Hawaii 350, because I was very interested to learn what they were doing, and the Hawaii Conservation Alliance, right? So I just been getting their emails. I haven't attended their meetings in person yet, but I'm wanting to know what they're engaged in so that I can learn in what way I can be of assistance. My latest one is the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Hawaii, which is an organization that invited me to a gathering literally a week after I arrived to the island because I knew someone from my Texas days. But I didn't know that there was a Hispanic chamber. So I was very curious and I finally joined them, I think 2 days ago. So I'm like, okay, let me see where else I can do, what I can contribute. But from that to them possibly engaging with CCL is going to be a long road. Because I don't know in what ways as of yet, my expertise with CCL or expertise as volunteers, community lobbyists could be a help to them, right? I don't know because I still don't know where they're needing the assistance and where I can help. So again, that's some of the ideas, but I love and I appreciated that she provided these suggestions. And again, it can not only just work with one community, it's actually with all different communities where you want to engage with. I have a list of resources. This resource guide came out of the Greater Pacific Northwest Conference, and every year I changed it. I bring a version of this to the summer conference. There are sessions that talk about DEI journey. What are some processes that you can make? How do people actually work on advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion? We have certain things on community, like communicating across the aisle, because we need that for the work that we do. Empowering each other in our climate advocacy and working with environmental justice communities that came from the EJ Action Team. And then from the EEI perspective, if you want to look and go deeper into community agreements, the National Equity Project has a really good resource for that. And then the glossary, it never fails. Every Wednesday, most Wednesdays now, because I'm doing a lot, on our CCL Inclusion account, I pick a word of the week. And I started doing that since 2021. as a way to encourage people to be curious and learn more, right? So I picked different words. I think I picked equity the other 2 weeks ago because we were even having that conversation at the staff level, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about what that really means, and if we want to practice that, what it could look like. But it's a really good beginning glossary if you are interested in learning more about DEI. Okay, so before we get into questions, I want to share a thought from Cam Humphrey. And I've been following Cam for a while, doing some amazing work. We all come from different backgrounds and upbringings, and we share different cultures. We have different wants and needs. We will never be uniform, but an intersectional approach makes us unified. With unity comes solidarity, and with unity comes agency. And if we are united, we can collectively put an end to the drivers of climate change and begin to create a climate just world. And that is all I have. So I am open and very curious if you have any questions. Thank you.
That's a wonderful quote.
I've been using Cam for my presentations because I'm like, no, that is really what I want to make sure that people understand. It's a collaborative work, and the only way it can move forward if we were all in it together. Yes. Ruth.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I was the international student advisor at the University of Hawaii at Hilo, and that was a great job. And what I felt was important, one of the most important things about diversity and creating community, as you're talking about it, is that you have all these different perspectives. So you can triangulate on a problem and you can have new solutions that if you just look from one perspective, you can't think of. So I wonder if you ever have any thing to say about that.
Yes. Every day. That's why my job is not boring. Let's see. So, Drew and I have said this, I think, in other presentations, but when we have conversations about things that we disagree with, it's so incredibly helpful to be in rooms with people that think differently than us, because they're helping us look at maybe something that we have missed, right? Because I have my point of view in how I think and look at a particular policy. Drew has his, and maybe someone else has something different, right? But we realize that we need to come to a consensus. So what is the thing that we are going to build together? Like, our example has always been when CCL wanted to put themselves forward as supporting nuclear. And I had mentioned to Drew, that's not a policy that I support. I don't think I can support that. And Drew and I were going back and forth about what he likes about it and what I don't like about it. And I'm like, and I understand that we want to get many conservative members to look at us and be like, hey, that's an organization that is supporting nuclear. Maybe we can engage with CCL. So I'm like, okay, fine. If we're going to do that, can we at least, and this is something that I've been recommending for all bills, something that I've been saying to the DC office and to other people that advocate for different things, can we at least share what are the pros and cons? Because I know at CCL, we're so used to be like, this is entirely good for you and you should support it because of this, and that. But I'm like, there's not a single policy, a single legislation that doesn't harm person in a particular way. Can we at least put, yes, this legislation is going to do X, Y, Z in a good way, but it could possibly bring conversations or cause harm, or you're going to get questions because this community and that community believe this, and that. It's just making the whole thing just as informed as you can be. And that is why I'm a believer that there needs to be different people in the room, including the young people. I rely a lot on young people, and not only because some of them are just so dying for information, but also because they bring a perspective of the world that I don't have. And it's also with people that are older than me, right? I am 50 right now. I'm 50. There's some things I haven't lived. There are people in 60s and 70s that probably know something that I do not know. So I value that point of view and that perspective. So yes, the more people that we can bring to our conversation, I think the more that we can hopefully build consensus and work together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Jamin, for keeping. I guess I'm tempted to forego some of the later slides and take advantage of the fact that we have Karina here on this important topic. So if people are okay with that, I would encourage keeping the conversation here going, and we can share the information and the slides with everybody, the stuff that I don't think needs a lot of dialogue, whereas I think we benefit a lot from this conversation. It's not something that really comes to life in putting on a piece of paper. So if people are okay with that, let's do that. Okay. Thanks, Ron. If anybody objects, please speak. Okay. So, okay. Given the permission from a couple people. So let's go forward. What other questions do folks have for Karina? And if folks don't have one, I'll start asking them. So that's your warning.
And I have a question for everybody here too.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to go quickly here. So I actually have two questions, but I'll ask the kind of narrow one first. When it comes to equity, what do you think about CCL's core policy of carbon fee and dividend?
Okay. So carbon fee and dividend was the reason I joined CCL. I love the idea of working on a solution that was going to somehow, I'm going to use the word even though that's not it, work on a way to repair some harm, right? But every time I looked at a version of the bill, even like I was like in 2018 when it dropped the first bill, I looked at the first version and then I looked at the second and I looked at the third. And every time I'm reading it, I'm always looking to see if there's a change in the line where it says we're going to collect the funds and give it back to all American households. And it's only going to be for people with Social Securities and with people with ITIN numbers. So mind you, I'm coming from a community. Prior to joining CCL, I was reporting on undocumented people. Undocumented people use energy, right? What's going to happen to them? Why? But it was the same thing with COVID. We had the same conversation with COVID, right? When they were giving those checks, like it only went to people with Social Securities and ITIN, and I'm sitting there like, how can we reconcile that, right? And when I had conversations with Drew about it, I'm like, Karina, well, it then it goes into another conversation that we're not ready to have because, and every time he tells me about it, he's like, oh, but that's like welfare. I'm like, well, they're living in the same place that we are. They're consuming electricity. Yeah, they're not getting anything for it. But they're also paying. I'm a believer that they do. But that's my only concern. I've had conversations with people of the EJ community that usually would tell me, okay, why does the dividend have to be uniform to all households? Why can it be? And I had the same conversation with Drew. Why can it be that only why can people that make more money get less, and the people that need the money the most get more? Right? And then it turns into another conversation that people really don't want to have. Right? So that is my little pick with the policy. But in theory, I think it's great. I would love to see some state adopted because I think I would like to see it in play of how it would work. But and it's also like everything else, in the EJ space, the devil's in the details. I look at all the bills and I'm like, I look at the details. I'm like, there's something right in there that, but that is, I think, the perspective that I can bring to CCL, that I will be looking in that, thinking of the communities where I come from. So, yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What was your second question?
Okay, so my second question, listening to, and now I just blanked out on the woman's name with the video. I'm curious whether, and it almost sounds like from your experience coming to Hawaii, whether you would put her bonus suggestion, if you will, ahead of the first suggestion. That, in other words, that I would say more important to look for ways to serve in certain communities and serve in a way of, I guess I would just say, listening, not coming in and, well, yeah, just that, just trying to learn and listen and serve. Seems that one would learn more about communities than necessarily picking up a book or what have you. But anyways, I'm curious what.
Yeah. When I joined CCL at the beginning, it was very hard for me to explain to many communities what we were working with. I was trying to do the work first in Spanish, and one of my challenge was, in some of the places, not in a lot of them, in some places, a lot of people didn't really have an understanding of climate change. So I made some of my presentations very educational. And I was grateful that I had gone to climate reality training, so I can pick some of those, the top 10, the 10-minute presentations that I can talk about the science part of it and then talk about the solution with us, offering the solution. So that was very telling and eye-opening to learn how much my community did not know. And then also going into places where maybe they do know, and some people are a little bit more advanced, and sometimes I see volunteers that are a little bit more advanced, and they're like, yeah, we can talk about the other technicalities of climate solutions with this particular people. So it really helps to listen, as you say. I have, and it's a bold thing to kind of do, go to places on my own, just because I'm curious. I'm curious to learn, what they're doing. I've gone to sessions, I've gone to museums, I've gone to community workshops, just to learn what the community is up to. And then along the way, I have people that have come to CCL because they have known that I've been involved with them. And they got curious one day and they're like, I know that you do something with climate change, but you never told us what. And I'm like, well, I wasn't sure when you wanted to have that conversation, or even if you were interested, because I don't want to impose on it. So that was the other thing. It felt to me that CCL at the beginning was very much like, it was very transactional. We're going to go to this community, we're going to tell them what's good for them, and then they're going to come and engage with us. And I could push back and be mean about it. And I'm like, who are you to tell me what's good for me? Do you live here? Do you know whether my water is polluted or my line doesn't work? Or whatever whatever's happening with me. So it was a lot of that. So I would usually tell people, we are a nonprofit organization that is working on climate solutions. I would like to invite you for you to learn about what we do and see if you're interested in engaging, because maybe they are and maybe they're not, but we're not going to know that. But if we come in for let me offer you a presentation, then, I haven't done a presentation for a community in a while. And I'm grateful that I rely on our values to be able to start the conversation there. And then leave it up to them to see, okay, what is it about this presentation that catches your attention? Would you be someone that is ready to talk about carbon fee and dividend or forestry? Or are you just someone that wants to be able to provide information? Just like we do with our volunteers. Like we all meet people where they are, right? The whole concept of meeting people where they are. Where are they? And then while that is taking place, in the meantime, I'm like, I'll just go and help and serve. one of my biggest gifts has been my ability to be able to speak in English and Spanish. Right? I've been able to offer that service. I did that when my daughter was in elementary school. I ran the PTA in Spanish because I was able to offer that, right? That was the thing that was needed, and that's what I offered. I was able to do that for writing for CCL, being able to translate some of the press releases. And a lot of the Latino volunteers that are bilingual are offer services like that. I'm also seeing Chinese translations and other translations as other people connect with different communities. So is that. I love that concept. And for a while, I had talked to CCL about opening the door to community service, because maybe not everybody wants to engage in policy or are ready to engage in policy, but maybe they can engage in some service, and that can present us in a different way. But Rachel, as our new CEO, will want us to focus. So I am listening to her and how she wants us to center our lobbying and on us being an effective organization. And I am going to go down that route. And then I'm going to try to see what is the best way that I can engage other communities in that kind of work. I have already expressed that it's going to be a little bit difficult because, as I said, there's many different communities dealing with different things. But I'm game. I'm willing to try. I'm not afraid to try. If anything, that is one thing that I appreciate from CCL, that people are coming here with different points of view and different expertise. And I'm like, okay, let's go with it. Let's see what we can do together. But I will always be that person reminding them. I'm like, is this equitable? Is this just? And sometimes I'll be like, oh, there goes Karina. I'm like, but that's what you hired me for. If you don't want that perspective, don't have me here. And then also, answer on their behalf. Sometimes answering on behalf of CCL has been a little bit hard because we don't offer what other organizations are offering, and I've been called out by my own people. They're like, hey, how can you not do equity? How can you do diversity and inclusion and not do equity? And I'm like, my organization is not there yet. Mm-hmm. And they're still sitting there like, that's irresponsible, Karina. And I'm like, I'm just telling you the truth. Thanks, Ruth.
No, appreciate, yeah. Well, going back to integrity, so appreciate that. Other questions folks have? Or Karina, you can give, oh, sorry, go ahead.
We're a minute over, but.
Yeah, but you can give, well, let me give you your chance to ask your question then.
My question to everybody was, and I've asked this many times, what places and communities are you engaged in your own community? Like, what does your community outreach look like? Are you involved in other places outside of CCL? And what have you learned from those communities? Yeah, Ron.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I didn't want to kind of jump in with my own personal point of view. But since you asked, the intersectionality that was really important to me as a lifeguard and a swimmer and a surfer, growing up in New Zealand in actually a fairly white culture with very few Maori friends. That was a fact that I just experienced. When I came to Hawaii, I saw Jack Lord and Hawaii Five-0 and the canoe out of Waikiki and the ba-ba-ba-bum-bum-bum and all of that. And I wanted to be in one of those canoes. And I joined Kauai Canoe Club, and I met just a raft load of local, different ethnicities, but primarily it's a Hawaiian sport. And what I learned is how to hold a paddle and how to respect the canoe and how to work with my fellow team members. And I'm still involved in the canoe club here now in Hilo, Keaukaha Canoe Club. And it's just been a wonderful experience. And the interesting thing here is that there are some important divisive issues, I would say, or divergent opinion issues. I might mention geothermal. I might mention the 30-meter telescope construction on Mauna Kea. And what I've observed is Hawaiians that are for one or the other or against one or the other. So it's I don't want to say it's a minefield, but it's a challenge. So that's just to answer your question.
Yeah, exactly. And that is a challenge, especially when the communities are divided on different solutions. Right? I've seen that a lot in the immigrant community when I was reporting in Texas. And it was difficult, but I was grateful that I was shielded by the line that journalists have about being objective. So I couldn't really voice my perspective on any of their things because I was reporting on their things, right? Part of my job was to be objective. But yeah, it does make it hard. But I think that the more that you engage, and I think you have proven that, the more that you'll be able to learn where the community is needing you right now. And you will only be able to figure that out the more that you engage, the more that you contribute.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Others want to feel up to answering the Karina's question? I guess I'll say one thing. So involved with some young folks at Iolani School and also through the Climate Future Forum. And I think kind of something, I guess, sort of tagging on to your thing, Ron, is that recognition, I think always trying to remind myself that whatever the demographic is you want to look at, right? That, I don't know how best to say this, but it's made up of a bunch of individuals. And so there are a lot of different feelings and a lot of different opinions, right? So whether it's, I'll just say young people, right? That, well, the young people feel this way. Well, some set of young people may feel that way, but there's another set of young people that feel a different way. As I'll just say, those who know Chisato was informing me about the student body president at Iolani is basically a mini Trump, whereas anybody who knows Chisato is anything but that. In fact, the antithesis of that. So anyways, I'll just throw that out there.
Yep. Right now I have asked the Latinos Action Team to do some research. Because a lot of people are like, oh, Karina, like, what is it that we are actually engaged in? And I keep on telling everybody, just follow the CCL actions, right? But people want to do more. And I said, well, why don't we go and learn about our different members of Congress that self-identify as Latino and that belong, that I didn't know, that there's a thing called the Hispanic Conference, which is Republican leaning, and the Hispanic Caucus, which is Democratic leaning. For many years, the only thing I knew was the Hispanic Caucus. I didn't even know that there was a Hispanic conference, but apparently there is. So we're all doing research and sort of adding to the looking at the CCL profiles that we have on the members of Congress, and then just trying to see what else we need to know. Like, do they belong to certain committees that could be of importance in the future? Without giving them any particular action right now, because people were like, oh, are we contacting members of Congress? I'm like, no. CCL hasn't told us how they need us yet. But when they do, we are going to be ready to be like, oh yeah, we can talk to these members of Congress because we know about them. So I believe hardly in preparation, just like we do with our lobby meetings, right? We go and we learn as much as we can about that member of Congress and where they stand and what bills they supported and what things about them show in media, right? I think that is a good CCL skill. And I want to be able to use it for the people that self-identify as Latinos that are part of Congress and engage with different communities. So, but yeah, the more we know.
So I'll say that I'm a moderate political person, but in Utah we are a red state, and in order for, I believe, to try to have more of a participation in politics in Utah, I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican delegate, actually. I went to the caucuses and said that I'm concerned about climate and I advocate for bipartisan solutions. And ironically, I got chosen as one of the delegates, and I go to our Republican convention. And I feel like it's important to participate in that way to get more context in the advocacy work that we do, because that's sort of not in my normal space to be working in, and to try to understand where certain people are coming from politically, and to, in a way, moderate the voice of the Republican Party, which it tends to be relatively extreme in the at least in the delegates area. So that's sort of the I was, when you first asked this question, Karina, I was like, well, all I do is CCL because that's all I do. But in reality, that's the way I try to step into places that aren't normally my comfort zone, and it's to help build a better understanding of the people that we're wanting to work with and build relationships with and understand better.
That is actually an excellent way to build more knowledge of the community around you, because you are learning how systems work. And that is the other conversation that brings the whole equity conversation to it. Like, there's been systems that haven't been updated in many, many years. and we have listings and we can disagree on all of those systems, right? But it's good to get an understanding on what is out there that is being employed, right? Right now, Bill is looking into like, oh, yeah, I'm engaging with the Republican members and the conservative members. And, this is where I am learning and studying the system. It will be very helpful for all of us to try to look at different systems and just to learn. Like, I haven't gone to a city council meeting, but I have it on my list. Because I'm like, I know how it works here, like down the street, where I am in Florida, but I don't know how it works in Honolulu and how different it could be, right? So I give myself assignments every couple of months to be like, and I'm like, okay, I've done this, I've done that. And then from there, the gifts come incredibly. Like, but yeah, that could definitely engage people in some interesting conversations. But I am very much, and I love our summer conference because of the different people that I meet. And Drew and I started doing this thing where I'm inviting him to my gatherings and I'm going to his gatherings. And last year, like, a lot of the conservative CCLers were like, what's Karina doing here? We're bonding. We're bonding and we're showing you that while we can do this, him and I do this, we also do this in public. To just, tell people, I'm like, there's no animosity here. Not at all. Yeah, we're aware that we disagree on many issues. My stand is very, very left, and Drew knows this. But we engage, and if we don't have that dialogue, we're never going to get to what we need to do. And we're here for the same thing, right? We're all here for the same thing.
Yeah, I'll just share one of my formative pieces of coursework that I did. It was called The Speed of Trust. I think it might even be a book. But the coursework laid bare, whether it's a business, a church, a labor union, an NGO, that organization will only move at the speed of trust. And how you get there is a long conversation, and not everybody will necessarily agree, but it's important to listen and understand and share what they need. I mean, I had a lot of involvement with the Labor Council in the Puget Sound area, and when some local had a problem and they got locked out, and we wanted to help them, at least my union would kind of like want to jump in. And what was really formative was let's help them. And then some of the real more thoughtful, aware, and this is, well, what do they need? Do they want cases of water show up at the picket line, or they need some other support? Let's ask them. So, speed of trust.
Speed of trust, which is also very much a CCL thing, right? We're also doing this with our members of Congress. I'm asking us to open a little door a little, and let's bring that to our communities and the places where we reside. Excellent.
Well, great. Thanks so much, Karina, especially staying up past midnight here. So appreciate you hanging on with us. Thanks, Bill, for joining. It's after 10 your time, and thank you, Virginia, too. I know it's getting late, and people on our side of the world probably want dinner right now. So thanks, everybody.
May I get a screenshot before we go?
Sure. Jamin, can I let you do that if you're... And Kirsten, if you want to show your video, but no pressure. Thank you.
Hi.
Excellent.
All right, here we go. Ready? Jamin, you're doing it? We can't hear you.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, smile. Great. Yeah.
And Ron, you're impressive being in 2 places at once. So that's
good job.
So thanks everybody. Mahalo, and
mahalo.
We'll send out a PDF, so the other slides about local things and what have you.
Yeah. Save the chat. Save the chat.
Sorry.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Jamin, for running the show here.
Everybody save the chat. We got the chat saved.
Good.
Okay, good.
Thanks.